Releasing control allows for unexpected blessings to manifest. Most of us are taught, directly or indirectly, that control equals safety. So we plan, we anticipate, we try to micromanage every detail of our lives, our careers, our relationships, our timing, our outcomes. We tell ourselves that if we just think far enough ahead, work hard enough, stay vigilant enough, we can prevent disappointment. But that kind of control comes at a cost, because no matter how carefully we map things out, life has its own rhythm, and when reality bends, when plans shift, when people change, when outcomes don't match the picture we held, anxiety creeps in, not because something has gone wrong, but because we're gripping too tightly to how we thought it should look. Control promises certainty, but often delivers tension. And sometimes, the most exhausting part isn't what's happening. It's the effort it takes to keep everything from happening differently. Now imagine this instead. Imagine the weight lifting. When you stop bracing for every possible outcome, imagine trusting that things can unfold in ways you didn't plan, but still serve you, not by giving up, not by disengaging, but by loosening your grip and allowing life to meet you halfway. Surrender is often misunderstood. It's not giving up, it's not checking out, and it's not deciding that nothing matters. True surrender is recognition. It's understanding what is within your influence and what is not. It's allowing life to move where it needs to move without trying to force it back into familiar shapes. Think of a flowing river. It doesn't stop when it meets resistance. It doesn't exhaust itself fighting obstacles. It adjusts, it curves, it finds a way around or through with ease. That ease doesn't come from weakness. It comes from trust in its own movement. When you release your grip, you're not creating emptiness. You're creating space. Space for clarity. Space for timing you couldn't plan. Space for opportunities that were invisible while you were holding on too tightly. Surrender doesn't take something away from you. It makes room. And often, what enters that space is better than what you were trying to control. When you loosen your grip, life often responds in ways you couldn't have planned. Opportunities don't always arrive through the doors you were watching. Sometimes they come from directions you never considered, because your focus was fixed on one outcome. There are countless stories that begin this way. Someone loses the job they were certain they needed, only to discover work that finally aligns with who they are. A relationship ends, leaving space that feels uncomfortable at first. And in that openness, a deeper connection eventually forms. At the time, these moments rarely feel like blessings. They feel like disruption, like loss, like uncertainty. But with distance, clarity emerges. What once felt like a setback reveals itself as redirection. What felt like an ending becomes an opening. These moments are often called blessings in disguise because they arrive quietly, without announcement, without fitting the plan you had in mind. They don't feel earned through effort. They feel received. And that's the difference. Abundance that flows naturally doesn't need to be chased. It meets you when you make room for it, not because you deserve it more, but because you're no longer blocking it with fear, attachment, or expectation. Trust doesn't arrive all at once. It's practiced quietly, in the present moment. Mindfulness isn't about controlling your thoughts or forcing yourself to feel calm. It's about noticing, observing what's happening without immediately reacting, without rushing to fix or predict. When you stay with the moment as it is, you create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, choice returns. Gratitude works the same way, not as denial, but as acknowledgement. When you take time to recognize what is unfolding right now, even if it's imperfect, even if it's unfinished, your focus begins to shift from what you're trying to manage to what is already supporting you. Trust grows in small moments. You don't have to release control everywhere at once. Start small. Let go of one minor outcome today, one expectation, one need to steer the result. Then notice what happens. Often the first thing you'll feel isn't loss, it's relief. And from that relief, peace begins to ripple outward, quietly confirming that life knows how to move when you allow it to. Life begins to feel different when you stop demanding certainty from it, when curiosity replaces rigidity, when openness takes the place of expectation. The journey itself starts to expand, not because everything becomes easy, but because you're no longer fighting the movement of it. In this space, life feels less like something to manage and more like something to experience. You begin to notice the moments in between, the quiet progress, the subtle shifts that once went unnoticed, because your eyes were fixed on a single outcome. Freedom lives here, not in having everything figured out, but in allowing yourself to be present with what's unfolding now. The destination matters less when you realize how much meaning exists along the way, and it's often here, in the openness, in the willingness to release the timeline, that the most profound blessings arrive, not on command, not on schedule, but when you finally made room for them.